Good afternoon, everybody. It's a long day behind us, but we have very interesting topic ahead. And the topic is about international Finno-Ugric movement, its challenges and possibilities present day and in tomorrow. At first, may I introduce you our distinguished panelists. So from my right, we have Rune Bjerkli, who is representative of Kvenlandsförbundet Riksförbund. He is her Secretary General, and also last year he received honorary award about Nordic Kven. Nordic Kvens, yes, sorry. So it's amazing. So, we have next Oliver Loode, who is managing director of Uralic Centre and also coordinator of Finno-Ugric Capital of Culture in this program. Next we have Lillak, who is a museum educator at the Estonian National Museum, and also you are a popularizer of folk culture and history. So, next we have Edina Csüllog, and you are a film director and producer, and also you are Finno-Ugric Film Festival initiator and also producer. And for introduction, I have this general open up for this topic, and I would ask you, what do you think? What is currently the most important long-term goal of Finno-Ugric international movement? So, and we can start right here from Rune. Maybe you open this topic.
Yeah, okay, thank you. It's good to be in Narva again. I was here in March, so I've been looking forward to this day. It's a very hefty question. I've been thinking a lot, and I also been listening to all the discussions today. And from our perspective, I am. Do anybody knows who the Kvens are? Can anybody raise their hand? Okay, so you pretty much know where I'm coming from. We had a gala dinner at the Royal Palace last year, and all the national minorities, the Finnish speaking, the Kvens and the Forest Finns, was invited when President Alexander Stubb was invited. And I was not there. My chief was there. And he speaks Finnish, and he had a few words with the Stubb, and he said, well, we have a difficulty with the Norwegian government that they're not supporting our efforts to learn Finnish. And then Stubb said, well, I know that you have some problems, but I cannot get involved in that. It's like internal a Norwegian thing. And I want to look at the camera, and I want Alexander Stubb to take more responsibility on behalf of the Finnish nation and the government to take charge of this Finno-Ugric movement, because that's what we need. We need not only Estonia. I think Estonia is the forerunners for the Finno-Ugric movement, but Finland is lacking. There's a whole story behind it, of course. This historical, political. One of the problems that we had in Norway is that when Finland became part of Russia, I can't remember who said that the Karelians were regarded as Russian, but we had the same problem in Norway, because when Finland became a part of Russia, the Finnish people in Norway was regarded as Russian Finns, and that created problems, a lot of problems. So I think I'm going to end there so somebody other also can talk.
Okay, thank you, Rune. So Rune mentioned that Estonia is the forerunner, and we have Estonia representative Oliver to comment. What do you think it's the most important goal in long term?
Well, I think we should be clear whether we are talking about the goals that already exist and are shared by the Finno-Ugric movement or goals that perhaps should be. But maybe for starters, I would just even question whether there are any goals at this time, because one could really ask whether this thing that we call international Finno-Ugric movement even exists, especially at this time. When I got involved in this Finno-Ugric activism, which was about 15 years ago, this was a very different time. Dmitry Medvedev was president of Russia, and back then he was not trolling on Twitter when drunk, but he was actually trying to open up Russia for Western investments. He visited Silicon Valley, hung out with Mark Zuckerberg, wore fashionable sneakers, started this Skolkovo project, which was supposed to become Russia's Silicon Valley, and it was easy to be optimistic about the direction that Russia was taking. And this was the context when I got involved. And as part of this organization called MAFUN, Youth Association of Finno-Ugric Peoples. And this was also the time when the system of World Congresses of Finno-Ugric Peoples was still somehow taking place. And even though there was even then much criticism about this system of World Congresses, that maybe it didn't do much or it didn't have much impact, still it existed. There was some kind of a structure allowing representatives of Finno-Ugric peoples to gather once in 4 years, discuss something, adopt some kind of a resolution. Heads of state participated in it. And then in between those World Congresses, some work was supposed to go on through the so-called consultative committee of Finno-Ugric peoples. So at least there was an appearance of some kind of international Finno-Ugric movement, and I would say that the youth part of it, MAFUN, somehow complemented it, and some good things came out of that. For example, the Finno-Ugric Capitals of Culture program is a direct consequence of discussions and work of MAFUN back in the years 2011, 12, 13. So I cannot say that there has been no impact. But today, MAFUN doesn't exist anymore. It went dormant pretty much after its congress in Tartu in 2015. And the last World Congress was held in Tartu, Estonia in 2021, and since then I think it was supposed to be held in 2024, but of course it wasn't, not in this year. So for practical purposes, it seems that this system of World Congresses is at least on pause, if not retired. And this means that there is really no structure for this what we call Finno-Ugric movement. Of course, much is being done in the Finno-Ugric scene by organizations and projects like FUFF, Finno-Ugria, Hõimõlõimed in Estonia, Sugukansan Ystävät in Finland, and so on. But I wouldn't say that it's really a movement, because most of those organizations are kind of doing their thing. And maybe that's actually a problem, that on the one hand, the structures that existed are somehow gone, but nothing has come in their place. Therefore, it is very difficult to speak about the Finno-Ugric movement currently having any goals. But another question, which maybe we could discuss later, is whether such goals what could be such goals, and what could be the form of this international Finno-Ugric movement in the current geopolitical realities.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Antti.
Thank you. Yes, I agree with Oliver in many aspects that maybe the World Congress of the Finno-Ugric peoples in 2021 can be seen as a swan song for this old structure in Finno-Ugric movement. And more than 3 years we have been in this so-called interregnum time, which means that, like, as we say, like, nature does not like empty space, so there may come something instead of it. We simply do not know what exactly. And one of the main challenges right now, I think, is to try to find new people, new communities, new organizations to keep this structure, this network of Finno-Ugric communities alive. Although we don't have this like very big congress or this like state-like this cooperation on state level as it used to be, it's still very important to have the context. So I disagree with you in a sense that like, yeah, maybe it's a bad thing that we don't have this state level cooperation as it used to be, but at the same time all kinds of organizations and institutions that keep the connections and contacts with whom possible is still vitally important. And like we can see, the process is already started. For example, the next capital of culture of the Finno-Ugric peoples will be in the United States, in the like mostly Finnish origin community, which means that there are communities in the world available. We simply need to reach them and find them. Whereas, yes, it's inevitable that we don't have access to everyone, especially people in the East. But this is like our, maybe the biggest goal, to find new communities and create new connections and kind of like create a new world in this sense.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, I totally agree with Oliver and with Antti. First of all, I'm also coming from this era when there was IFUSCO, when there was Mafun, and we were raised by those movements. And I think I got inspired by this, and that's why we are doing this FUFF, Finno-Ugric Film Festival. And I think there's more questions than answers here, because is it a movement? And if it's a movement, is it important only for us, or it's important to be seen? And I think in that way, this Hancock thing is a very good thing. And also I think FUFF is in that way. This year we had like 25 different nationalities at FUFF, and most of them, they have never heard of Finno-Ugric peoples, so they got to the festival. And I think it's more a question of how we advertise ourselves, how we marketing ourselves, how we are visible. And if we are visible, then we are able to create this new system or new place of gatherings or a new movement. Because I think we need young people, because of course, the long-term goal we had and we still have to preserve the unique cultures and the unique languages, and somehow to do it together, because it's easier than to do it alone.
Okay, thank you, everybody. I picked up here that state-level cooperation is maybe vital to have this strong support for the movement of all the activities, and obviously that is very difficult with the Russian Federation, as you, Oliver, mentioned. It's strange, and they changed very much. And I would like a follow-up. You all mentioned that, do I understand correctly that Finno-Ugric international movement has currently some kind of identity crisis? So we don't have goals. There are some different understandable missions, preservation of small nation, communication maybe for the global public. So And actually we have a lot of different activities in the field of international cooperation. We are now currently in the Capital of Culture, which is international initiation. We have Finno-Ugria, you do international cooperation, Finno-Ugric Film Festival. So we have actually different activities. Maybe we observe closer all these activities. For example, let's start for this Finno-Ugric Capital of Culture program. Next year is in United States. What do you think, what kind of new quality this very interesting location brings to the movement in the field of communication, cultural? For me, it's very intriguing. How do you feel about this? Anyone who has thought about this, maybe? Yeah.
I see it in Norway. There's very little awareness of the Finno-Ugric movement at all. Mm-hmm. And when I work, we have an election in Norway now for the new parliament, and every year I do a survey among some of the candidates. And this year, last time I was in Tromsø, and this year I was in Finnmark, in Alta. And I noticed that some people were very skeptical of answering the question. And the level of knowledge among these political candidates are very little. They don't even know who the national minorities in Norway are. And so the general level of knowledge about these things is like close to zero in Norway. In Estonia, I would imagine that is quite high. In Finland, I don't think it is that high. So when these major countries is not involved, and when Norway and Sweden possibly also have the same problem, we need to make the movement more visible in the political arena on the top, because otherwise it's just I see in Norwegian politics it is just drowning in everyday problem that we have, like unemployment, health issues, so it does not get the level of attention that it needs. So that's why I was very intrigued by this idea by Juku, the parliamentarian here from Estonia, that we wanted to have invite us to the parliament in Estonia. I think that's a very good idea. If we can have a parliament thing there with 17 representatives, and also with representatives of the Norwegian parliament and Swedish, Finnish, and Hungary, and maybe not Russia, but it could create some awareness in these countries.
Any more thoughts about this? Yes, of course.
So concerning Hancock, well, I think the most important aspect of it is that Hancock, Michigan, itself wanted to apply for the title of Finno-Ugric Capital of Culture. It is their initiative, their will. This year there was no competing bid, but the jury that also, for example, Edina was a member of, made the decision still based on, well, in its decision made sure that Hancock will be somehow ready for this title. This title wasn't just handed to them. But what it means in a bigger picture, I think it's an opportunity to widen and broaden what we understand by the Finno-Ugric world. Because historically, I believe in Estonia, maybe in Finland too, there was this very strong Russia focus in the Finno-Ugric cooperation, and of course for good reasons. But with this focus on Russia, it may be that other Finno-Ugric peoples and communities and diasporas outside Russia were somehow forgotten or not prioritized. And so now, with formal cooperation with Russia not possible for the time being, and maybe even for the foreseeable future, this is actually a great strategic opportunity to cooperate with those with whom it is possible to cooperate, and also with those who actually want to cooperate. I was in Hancock in April. I gave a presentation to the local community there about the Finno-Ugric movement in general, about Finno-Ugric capitals of culture, and you cannot imagine the level of enthusiasm that this Finno-Ugric idea evoked there. And if this is the case, then I think we should really, take advantage of this and build on this. Also, concerning the Hancock, and I think it's an opportunity for the civil society whom we represent here to take a lead also in a little bit like bigger international processes. Right now I think it's very important for us in Europe to have good relations with the US. Transatlantic relations is really important for our security. So maybe as a civil society we can also give our small contribution for that by building new bridges. And let's see where this goes. Yeah. Also, just to comment what Antti said, I actually don't believe that this state-level cooperation is so key in the Finno-Ugric movement. The best parts and the most sustainable parts of the Finno-Ugric movement are not state-led. Just think about it. Estonian state, Finland, and to some extent Hungary, for years were funding from state budgets the organization of world congresses. What was actually the impact of that? Don't know. But for sure, this system hasn't turned out to be very sustainable. But what is sustainable? FUFF is happening. Finno-Ugric Capitals of Culture is happening. Grassroots initiatives are actually happening and sustainable. This is, I think, this enthusiasm of community-based grassroots activists is much more important than any money from state budgets, and I think it's almost like civil society can somehow like lead our respective states in certain directions if we are smart about it. For example, what happened in the previous panel where our MP Juku-Kalle Raid suggested this idea of a meeting in Estonian Parliament, Riigikogu. This is also a result of civil society activism here. So let's lead the process.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. As Antti, you previously said that there is no empty place, that if we don't have Russian Federation as previously 15 years, we must find some else to continue. And actually I want to slowly move to this political cooperation and how this cultural, especially this grassroots initiatives, support this political awareness of even those nations we have not cooperation contact. And I just use possibility and mention that I visited 2 Finno-Ugric capitals in Russia, and I saw that this idea, this outside communication, outside intention actually support very much both cultural awareness and within this political awareness. They're very connected. And in continuation, I would like to ask Edina, how do you see the perspective of this grassroots, very lovely film festival, how this support this political awareness in long term?
Yeah, actually it's nice that Oliver talked about the grassroots movement, because I wanted to talk about this, and I think FUFF is one of the examples. And so the last 5 years I realized that one thing is to show those films, but the even bigger thing is to show to the world that there are Finno people existing. So the last 3 years we have been not only organizing FUFF in Estonia, but we were in Mazirbe, and we were in Tartu. Next year we are going to be in Karelia. And I think it's very important to have the local communities. And so we invited different filmmakers from all over the world to get to know our cultures, our languages, and they can make good films. And these films can be shown in different festivals and different places, and it's a high quality. So I think it's something which could be our trademark, or what this is the way where FUFF is going. And yeah, we think that we shouldn't stay in Estonia all the time. It's a very good place and everything is fine. It's just that we have to somehow support other Finno-Ugric communities because they have low access to filmmaking and all these kind of things. And also Hancock, go back a little bit to this, when they made their proposal, and it was very Finnish culture based, and we suggested them to involve more of the other nations and other languages and other culture activities. And I think it's also a very good thing because in the United States, I don't know how many people even in Hancock know about Udmurts or Komis or whomever. So all kind of collaborations. Let's say just 2 days ago, Lithuanians, Bulgarians came to me that they would like to do little FUFF in Bulgaria. Why not? I mean.
Yes, it's, I just want to add, as a history teacher, I teach history here in Narva. So currently it's very hot topic, reassessment of colonial history. And we have a lot of materials from Canada about the native First Nations destiny. And this is very much this global attention. I think what you mentioned, that we do this Finno-Ugric Film Festival in not Finno-Ugric countries, Finno-Ugric areas, I think it's it might be one goal of international movement Finno-Ugric to raise awareness globally. Maybe some more ideas how we can gain attention for this Finno-Ugric nations, Finno-Ugric, especially our kindred people in Russian Federation. Any more ideas? It might be one goal of international movement, maybe. What we can do. Finno-Ugria, maybe Antti has some, beside Maailma Congress, maybe some activities.
I don't really know how, if or when it is possible to get back to reach the Finno-Ugric peoples in Russia, if this is what you were asking, or in what form it will be done in the future, because right now there are still a bit too many different aspects to take into consideration. So we cannot simply predict. As far as I understand, like a large part of the key to the future of the Finno-Ugric peoples in Russia lies in Ukraine. Like the result of this, what takes place there and how it will end, also gives like the further directions. Maybe like one of our goals is to keep an eye on it, like very carefully, and try to understand the right momentum, when to make a move and what kind of move to make. Because the more we go from this previous way of life, more than 3 years already by now, and the more we stay in this interregnum, the more difficult it is to get back to the old normality, so to say. Simply because the contacts, they get older there as well. We don't know, maybe the younger people, who are they, whether there are any, because if there are people who are not who don't have access to education in their native language, and if the state level kind of like propaganda is very strong, then as Juku Kalle in previous session mentioned, like we don't have information, like also to make such predictions. yeah, so like
Okay, it's complicated.
Yeah, it's difficult to get back to this.
We must be ready anyway.
We must be ready, of course, yes. But I also think that there may be much less possibilities from Estonian side. First, about like generationally speaking, about like half of Estonians cannot interact in Russian anymore. I am 40 years old. I'm about in the middle of it. My Russian is very poor. Not enough, not sufficient to interact, you know, like in a natural way. And also like the Estonian society as a whole may have kind of like a very kind of like paradoxical attitude to the language relations, relativity. First, of course, we are interested in our roots. At the same time, especially younger people don't want to do anything with Russian side in the future. They may be like negatively kind of like tuned in this, and it may also start to affect like national budgets or decisions where to put money or finances and resources. Maybe like most of the cultural and humanitarian programs will be directed to Ukraine instead, and it means that there are like less possibilities. Money is not the most important, but it helps to get to the most more important goals. So this is also what may start to affect these like approaches to the East.
Thank you. Oliver, you wanted to add something?
Yes, it's very interesting that Antti, you brought up Ukraine and said that we need to keep an eye on it. Indeed. And here I would like to also say that about a year ago, I had a talk with a very experienced Finno-Ugric kind of activist from the, let's say, from the already since the 80s and 90s here in Estonia, who told me that, for example, I, in my Finno-Ugric activism, should keep Ukraine and Finno-Ugric issues separate. That there is some risk or danger in somehow trying to find some connections or synergies between those two issues. I couldn't have disagreed more, because in my view, actually, Ukraine and, let's say, the long-term success of Ukraine holds the best and most important keys for improving the conditions of Finno-Ugric peoples of Russia. Well, I could give a longer analysis of this, but I guess the short version would be that Ukraine's long-term success would inevitably lead to the decolonization of Russia one way or another. Ukraine on a state level understands this very well, also on the parliamentary level. Ukraine is the only state in the world that has set up a special parliamentary committee to develop a strategy for communicating with independent national movements of Russia's captive peoples. There is a draft law. It has passed the first reading. It's still in the process of being adopted, but serious work is being done in this direction. Why? Because Ukraine, of course, it has to do with Ukraine's national security interests. Ukraine understands that the success of these kinds of national movements is also related to its own success. But as a result of this and other initiatives going on in Ukraine, I would say that that Ukraine is kind of like the world leader in decolonization of Russia. This is actually something that is also in the interests of Estonia and Finland. Simply our parliaments, our governments are not yet ready to publicly acknowledge that. So for me personally, Ukraine is the example. Also, is it a random chance that the politically most active Finno-Ugric national movement has its leadership based in Ukraine? No, I think there's a logical explanation. Ukraine is an environment where it is possible to do this kind of and conduct this kind of political work. And Inazor is the kind of the living embodiment of that. I believe that also the work of there's a national movement should be more supported much more in both Estonia and Finland, the same way, at least the same way, if not more, than the support it receives in Ukraine. So I believe that actually we are here in the same boat with Ukraine when it comes to the future of Finno-Ugric peoples, and this is something that more work needs to be done on.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Oliver. I would like to have a follow-up question from you, Rune. So, what do you think, do we, Finno-Ugric people who live in democratic countries, do we have some kind of responsibility for our kindred people who live in Russia? Or maybe how to see this load of responsibility? Is this there, or maybe we think too much? How to see from this distance this issue?
Well, it's difficult because the war in Ukraine is very, very bad, and we see that we're not able to deal with it. The European nations is financing the weapons that the Americans are possibly producing, and then, but we're not, for instance, putting troops on the ground. I mean, if we want Russia out of Ukraine, okay, why don't we just do it? But we can't. So it's difficult. And as I mentioned to Stub, you know, it is a very difficult international situation. Mm-hmm. So it's more complicated than just a Finno-Ugric issue. But I've been thinking about this also, because I'm involved in a project called the Singing Heritage Route. It goes all the way from Vilnius, along the border of Russia, all the way up to Salla in Finland. And one of the key things is to present like the singing revolution in the Baltic states is like a good example in the 80s, 90s. That ended up, it didn't cause the dissolution of Soviet Union, but it was good. You were ready to be independent. So it is building your own culture so you can be ready to be independent. And that's the same thing now also. And it's kind of like ironic that Putin and Russia wants to become larger because they're already large. And we've been also talking today about rural areas. People want to live in urban areas. If you look at it, what is defining each national culture? Most likely is like when we first started taking pictures, and when you had rural farming societies. So when we lose the local communities, we also lose the genuine culture of each nation and minority and folk group. And when everybody's moving into the city, they are becoming globalized. So this is like a big issue, actually. So in that regard, I would say that the Finno-Ugric people is representing the genuine culture, languages of each country. And for that reason, we should also work towards ending the war in Russia, because it is also ironic that Putin wants to make Russia Russia, a Russification of Russia. You're going to be only thinking in one way. But that if you want to go in one way, you're more likely to go into a disaster. So that's also like the Finno-Ugric thing, that we have more cultures, we have more ways of thinking. And that's the value that we should fight for. And we have to find some kind of common ground, because Jukka had a very good point here you talked about European values. I mean, if we want to get through to people, the people that we are kind of like fighting against should have the same values as we have. That's the fundamental. So we also have to think about what is the common values that we have with Putin or the Russian people, and also just to figure out what are the values that the Finno-Ugric people themselves have. That's a very important thing. And then you could talk about there's somebody who is evaluating how much people are happy in each country. And I know the Nordic countries are placing it very high, but Finland is on top. Why is that? So, and I've been traveling a lot to Finland, and I've come to the conclusion that they're a tad more interested in mastering something on their own. Happiness comes from within. So that's also like the part of the reason why I'm working on a singing heritage route. So it's better to do something, to sing something, than to be entertained by some global artist. And that is the key to everything. So, and that's also something I talked to one professor and Petr Savorsky said, because he had moved into Moscow, but he had to go back to his place well beyond the Ural Mountains to get the potatoes that he wanted. So not everybody can live in Moscow either. So.
Thank you, Rune. You brought up several very interesting aspects, and one is about values. So our first question was, what is the goal of the international movement? But it's maybe difficult to define the goal if we don't have the maybe common understandable values. And should we have even this? Maybe our cultures are too different to define these values. Antti, you wanted to add something on this thought?
Yes. The question you asked,
this I had
one of the most difficult ones in the Finno-Ugric movement anyway. So maybe let's put it this way, that we like to think of ourselves as a big family, language family, but in our real family, like maybe you can all think of your actual families, like other people who you don't want to interact too much because of the reasons. So, like, is it possible to cut them out of the family tree? Of course, yeah, you don't want to interact too much, after all, yes, because you want to save your own nerves for needless conflicts, maybe. So, like, I don't have an answer to this, but this is something that also affects the whole Finno-Ugric thing.
We have 45 minutes, flew like 1 minute, so it was very. But let's. We have also here possibility for questions, but let's have this. Little conclusion so we can have interaction. And I would pick up this value question because it's very interesting, and also what is put me some thoughts that the globalization and for me the Finno-Ugric culture is very densely connected with nature, with agricultural lifestyle, or this our Nordic kindred people about this cattling, and so but it's anyway very densely connected with rural lifestyle. So what is the Finno-Ugric modern global culture? What is the face of this? We have actually this face, of course, this modern Finno-Ugric, this film festival probably have very wonderful platform for developing this modern Finno-Ugric cultural face, and about including young people. It is unfortunate that we have no interest in Russian young people to continuation of this Finno-Ugric culture, so it's very complicated. But in conclusion, maybe this positive thought. So what do you think, what is, in your opinion, this Finno-Ugric common value, and how we can feed this in future activities? Just very this wide thoughts. Who is first? What is Finno-Ugric identity and value? It's very difficult to understand, so it's maybe... Oliver, you have some thoughts? Maybe just very broad one, of course.
I don't have an answer of what is the common Finno-Ugric value, but it is clear that what this thing that we have imagined as Finno-Ugric world is very much geopolitically divided right now. There is a kind of an iron curtain between kind of Russia and let's say the western part of Finno-Ugric world. And those values are very, maybe even diametrically different right now. Not only between states, but probably to some extent, or to a large extent possibly, in societies. So trying to find a common unifier across this entire Finno-Ugric world, to me, right now seems an impossible task. But what is not impossible task, what is maybe even a desirable task, is to look for common values and common goals. To come back to your first question about what is the goal of the Finno-Ugric movement among Finno-Ugric states and peoples on this side of the new Iron Curtain. I am sure that that these common values and goals can be found between Finno-Ugrians of Estonia, Finland, Sweden, Norway, Hungary, Ukraine, and let's also bring in the diasporas, like even in the US, wherever there are Finno-Ugrians, and maybe some new networks or let's say cooperation, communication platforms can be created between them. In the previous panel, Juku Kalleraid mentioned these Finno-Ugric cultural congresses between the two world wars in the 1920s and 1930s. This was somehow like the foundation of modern international Finno-Ugric movement. But these congresses were an affair between Estonia, Finland, and Hungary. Russia did not participate in it, but still, I'm sure that these congresses had a value. It was better to have them than not to have them. And maybe now also this is the time for, well, let's to simplify things, to say like the free part of the Finno-Ugric world, to create structures that allow to cooperate between those who can and who want. Maybe it's a time to consolidate and to also work towards the moment when the Iron Curtain will somehow be torn down. I don't mean to wait until it just comes down by itself, but also actively work towards it. And this is, I think, why I would very much support the ideas from the previous panel that there should be actually more political activity by Finno-Ugric peoples and by the Finno-Ugric movement, because this is an opportunity not to only wait and see when these changes in Russia will happen, but to contribute to them, at least to contribute to the discourse about the future of Russia in particular, what kind of Russia the Finno-Ugric movement wants for its peoples, what kind of political, economic, social conditions should exist in the future of what is today called the Russian Federation, and to be part of the discourse. I mean, there is a much talk and also some action concerning opposition to this Putin's regime, but the Finno-Ugric voice is not really part of that. Sometimes we hear an Erzia voice there. Sometimes we hear a voice of Russia's, let's say, decolonial movements of Russia's peoples, but we do not hear a Finno-Ugric voice. So my wish would be that at least in the discourses and also in some political work, there would be a Finno-Ugric voice calling for better conditions for Finno-Ugric peoples in the future on the territory of today's Russia.
Okay, thank you, Oliver. Some more thought about common identity. Is this possible at all, or maybe needed or not, to find some common? Yes.
Well, it's difficult to find the exact common value, but we have a pretty much good idea about that. We have a kind of like a longing to being in the nature, doing things in the nature. I think that's a common value, being close to or down to earth, and being able to do things on our own. And I think that as I started, that we are focusing on Russia, but what can we do something about? Finland and Estonia, especially Stubb, he can create more activity between Finland, Norway and Sweden. And the Nordic countries are strong in many ways. The people of the Nordic countries are like 27 million. Russia has like 140, and we have the equal size of economy, the Nordic countries, compared to Russia, for instance. So the Scandinavian and Finnish countries are strong. So we should work on getting more cooperation and more network between, especially the Scandinavian countries and Finland, because that's what we're lacking, especially. It's kind of like, my colleague here from Tornedalen and Sami, we're like the only people here from Sweden and Norway. We should be much more. So I think corporations, I would like to work with your film festival in Norway and Sweden. Try to have Finno-Ugric films there, like a festival.
Yes.
And I also want to mention that I have a project that we're working in line with the what is it called? The International Decade of Indigenous Languages. It's a UNESCO program from starting in 2022. It's going to end in 10 years. And we had some Finnish international Finnish writing competition. And there we have actually included Northwest Russia, because we're including Karelian. And we had some entries from Russia to this competition in 23. The difficulty is, of course, when somebody is winning, we have to pay them the prize. So, but we managed that also this year. But I did it in talks with both the Norwegian embassy, the state or the foreign ministry in Norway, and also was in touch with the Russian embassy and the Russian consulate up in Kirkenes. They didn't say anything, so I thought, well, they're silent, so they agree. So there's also like a possible way of also maybe having some people-to-people interaction still, so we are ready when things are changing. So, but what we can do today is have more cooperation between the obvious countries first, and then move on. We use that as a platform to also make a dig at Russia.
Mm-hmm. And it correlates very nicely what we have taught before, that this international movement of Finno-Ugric nations should be more braver to cooperate with other countries than not only this Finno-Ugric, but also Scandinavia, also Eastern European countries, and so on. So it's very important for this awareness rising also for us. Do you have some ideas about this identity? That's philosophical ideas, but this Finno-Ugric common values or identity? This
same, I think, nature.
Nature.
To be together with nature, and that's why we also do the festival always in the nature, to experience this somehow, to show this And but I think also it's very important is grassroots movement, and also, like as we call with Antti, who is a fellow co-worker in FUFF, that it's a mushroom network. So it's a human mushroom network that people who come together, like here, we see each other, we know each other, and our movement gets stronger by this. And all these little organizations and little co-works between all of those people, it makes the movement stronger.
Very nicely said. Antti, do you have some ideas or thoughts about this?
Yes, it's more or less the same. That what Edina just said, like sustainability. Communities who think of sustainability will survive. The rest simply will be talked in the like as history, as past, something in the past.
And I also answered my question about this modern identity of Finno-Ugric nation. We thought about nature, contact with nature, but the question is, what is somebody with Finno-Ugric identity, how is defining himself or herself in the city? I think the answer is the animatism, is the belief that nature is alive, but not only nature, but also your urban environment is alive. It's you talking with your computer as a living being. So this is, I think, very much represents this Finno-Ugric idea of it's true actually. So it's I think we all speak with our technology as they will be our living neighbors. 1 hour is already past, but you have possibility